Well, this is another episode of Set the Pipe, everybody, and I think you're going to start realizing how relaxed this podcast is. It's going to be past stuff, future stuff, BSing, kidding around. So kind of get used to that. That's kind of what we prefer when we just do us three. So guys, there's a couple big matches in men's volleyball this past couple days. Cole, you were there. Bear, you got the kind of lowdown. What's up, guys?
Yeah, well, first of all, hey, everyone, make sure you hit subscribe. Glad to be back here at Set the Pipe.
Love to have you back.
Love to have you back. Keep watching, keep subscribing, keep telling people about it. We're just trying to get the story out of volleyball. And speaking of volleyball, the match on Friday night at Long Beach State.
You were there, baby.
Wow. Michelle and I and a bunch of others were talking about it, and just the pure just environment. Like we're driving, through the campus to get to parking, and she's like, I remember when we played club tournaments here, not even in the gold mine, in the gym down the road.
Oh, yeah, that was our practice
facility.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I remember I used to play in those two there. And then we walk into the pyramid. There's, I sent you a picture. There's
outdoors.
There's people in line outside.
That was crazy.
Nowhere to park. I felt like I was at, going to UCLA USC basketball game or, like it was just so awesome just to see the environment outside before we even get into the pyramid. So we get into the pyramid and it's practically, sold out 10, 15 minutes before the match is starting. There's just hoopla everywhere. The excitement, the fan base for Long Beach State had a huge, student section, dressed in wigs, completely dressed up, going crazy, right next to their DJ. It was college sports at its best.
Really cool.
That's the way I would say it was college sports at its best. And we all played in a great generation, and we talk about it all the time. You guys won national championships, but it was awesome. Like we played some really fun stuff.
Yeah,
nothing like this.
Like that. Yeah,
nothing like this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just so cool for volleyball. It's so cool for people that want to play volleyball. Like you're in front of whatever. What did they hold? 7,000, 8,000, whatever the pyramid is. Yeah. It was standing room only.
Yeah,
and it was just an electric night for college sports. It was an electric night for men's volleyball. It was an electric night for a fan like me.
Yeah, right.
It was an electric night for everyone.
Yeah, I think UCLA and Long Beach have a pretty good rivalry now. I mean, after, championships against each other. A couple of years ago, Hawk alluded to it, that it was sold out in there, and I've been in that environment in there with them, where I'm standing up in the rafters with everybody, and the place is just nuts, and it's a lot of fun. Volleyball's cranking right now.
Yeah, it is. Men's and women's. It is. I mean, the attendance records are insane right now, which is great. I actually got to play in the pyramid. I mean, because we didn't play in the pyramid. It was after our time.
Yeah.
But it was, you go to alumni match, a couple years after you graduate, and you get to play, and you're like, okay, this is really cool. Like, this is really cool. And just to think, Coley, could you imagine, CSUN coming into the pyramid, back in the day, and it being packed, as we had in the pyramid. In the gold mine, it was. I had a funny story, buddy that drove 5 hours to come and see us play. Wouldn't let him in.
Wow.
Fire marshal said no.
In the gold mine. Yeah.
In the gold mine. Yeah.
There's...
But can you imagine just that impact? I mean, to play in that environment. I mean, you got to sit in it. You got to see everything, all the hoopla that's going with it. That would have been pretty amazing.
Hey, Sully, when you said you played in the pyramid, right?
Yeah.
For alumni, what did you think when you were on the court? Is it an easy gym to play in? Because I've played in there a few times on like tournaments, and I've played in alumni and all that.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a hard environment to play in, even when there's not a lot of people in there, just because where the lights are and the ceiling and all that stuff. It's hard to track the ball. Did you see any of that or feel any of that when you were playing in there?
It was just different. I mean, you have to remember, some of those big matches like against SC, when it was people were sitting around our court, right? Because they couldn't sit in the stands. You just didn't have that intimate, everybody on top of you, right? Like the bozos out at Hawaii, right? They were just on top of you. In Clum Gym. Yeah. You didn't have that. It was very more spacious, but it was on a grander scale. But in terms of like, tracking the ball or, no, it was very similar to me, like playing at Stanford. It was just kind of that big ordeal. And
if you played at Maples, though, but sometimes you played at Burnham in the smaller places where we would play Stanford, and they could, you'd be out serving, and the fans knew who your girlfriend was back in high school that dumped you, and they could grab your shirt.
Yeah.
And Stanford, that's the one thing about Stanford that I love. And I talk to them, all those guys, if you're getting heckled, at least back, and still to this day, they do their research. They're pretty bright up there. They're not just crushing you for like, oh, your shirt. They're talking about something that happened to you like 5 years ago, where your girlfriend dumped you when you were a junior in high school at prom, and like you're back to serve, and they know it. Like, and you're just like, how do they know that? It's like they do their research.
Hawaii and Stanford were the same way. And two great stories was at Hawaii is Mark Caron's, his girl, they just broke up, and the whole crowd, Kelly, the whole time. And then Schroeds, they were all over Schroeds because I think Schroeds served a ball into the student section during warmups. So, and so when he so they're all announcing the starting lineup, and he waves and he flips him off. You know what I mean? It was over. Like, it was probably his worst match ever, but they were relentless.
Well, he did that his freshman year. So it was every year they tried to crush Schroeder for 4 years.
Yeah, amazing fans. That's what's great about volleyball. I mean, some of the and I have something to bring up, and I can't forget it about. I'm gonna say it right after this. After I talk about the fans. The fans are so great in volleyball. They you said the other day when we were talking. The volleyball fans that love volleyball, they know what's going on, right? They love volleyball. They see what's happening. So that's kind of cool. And the ones that just really want to support their team, like if you're gonna heckle, you might as well get an A+ at heckling, right? You might as well do it right. We used to do that at Northridge, and we prided ourselves in it. But Hawaii and Stanford are two of the best.
Yeah, so, for sure.
I still want to go back to the match. Let me go back to the match first, and then I'll come back to this one point. And I'm sure this will have to be a short because I want to hear people's feedback on it. But so I'm sitting at this match, and I'm sitting behind the UCLA bench. I'm with John's brother, and
be able to see you on ESPN Plus. That was cool.
And my son played hoops there. My wife went there, so I'm wearing a UCLA basketball shirt. Not that I'm not a 49er fan and a state school fan and an Al Knight fan. And
I talked to Alan last night. He wasn't real happy that you were wearing that UCLA shirt. By the way,
yeah, I'm sure he looked right. He as he come over on game 2 because they switched sides, and he looks up at me and sees Moons and I. We give him a wave, and we talk about our heads are shiny. And I could just see him looking at me wearing the shirt. I'm like, I know my son doesn't go there anymore, so maybe I shouldn't be wearing it. But just the thing about it for me is, we said a few minutes ago about like just the electricity of that match. Honestly, I can equate to like big basketball games. Like my kid playing in huge basketball games and going to a Sweet 16 or just a tournament game or a big game in the Pac-12. This was like that. This was something that I haven't seen in men's volleyball in a long time, unless it was the Final Four or something like that. This was just a early season ranked match, people standing outside, crowded, and the level. I mean, I said we could all play. Maybe we couldn't.
They're massive.
It is unbelievable how big, strong, fast, quick. The game is just unrelentlessly fast.
Yes.
From all aspects of the game.
Yeah.
From the serving to the setting to the quick hitting to everything. And some guys are giant, some aren't as big, but they're super dynamic. They're super fast. And it's just such a fun game. Nikolov, I don't even know what to say about him. Like, he's hitting over, he's a setter, he's hitting over 6'8", 6'10" guys, like over it, down. He's making sets that are silly. They're they're silly.
So now you know what I was talking about when I went to Lewis, right? And I've said this a couple times on our recent interviews, is it just doesn't do it justice until you go. When you go, you're like, oh, this is wholly different than what I've been watching, or totally different from the women's game that someone's used to watching. You have to go to a men's game, and it's so exciting. Like you said, the physicality and the dynamics these guys bring to the game is awesome.
And he's at a different level. And I know that level was one of the best there is. It was number 1 versus number 3. UCLA battled. They won game 2. They had some chances, in a few of the other games. I'm going this Wednesday night to UCI. USC number 5 is coming.
That's a good one.
Coming down to play number 2 UCI. I'm going to go to that match. I'd like to see it. A good friend of mine, Jimmy Klein, his son Dylan. Jimmy played at Stanford. His son Dylan
right.
was just National Player of the Week a week ago at USC. He's an outside hitter. He's a stud, so can't wait to see him play. But I just still can't believe just how it's played from when we played, right? Like, I used to think it was quick. All of a sudden you're watching a guy jump in the 1, and then the ball's set about the 3-foot line, about 2 feet behind the net, above the net. and it's the guy flying out of the back row, just absolutely thundering it like we were doing warm-up lines in our. And he's hitting a back row bick right over the one, literally straight down. And you're just like, how do you block it? I mean, I couldn't even block back then. What am I going to do now? I mean, geez, Louise.
What do you think, Cole? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What do you think about the Wednesday match, though, up at Pauley? Is that going to affect anything, do you think? Or is it going to be the same outcome? What do you think?
You mean with UCLA?
Yeah, UCLA and Long Beach.
Long Beach, yeah.
You know, I was thinking about going back up there and watching that one as well, but down here, getting to see UCI, SC, check out different UCI and USC, different matches. You know, I think UCLA may win that one, right? Because I don't think they're that far behind. Okay. But at the same time, when you have a generational talent like Nikolov, he's just better than everybody.
He's a game changer.
And that's what I'm saying. I was texting with a bunch of people that were at the match that played in our generation too. They're saying the same thing. I mean, he might not even be there next year, right? He'll just go
right. That's like his brother. Yep.
Yeah, and just go make a lot of money, and he'll be their setter on their national team for the next 8-12 years, right? I mean, the guy is just, and he's fun. He's enjoys the game.
Yeah.
He's having fun. He's
chip
an
on his shoulder.
Yeah, chip
looks
on
across
his shoulder.
the net.
Yeah. So this is a perfect segue. Looks across the net. I can't believe this, and I hope everyone's listening, because if you are, we need to go back a little bit. I understand kindness. I said this in our last one, and I understand like being bros with the guys you play with. Like, we were bros, and we were playing against you guys in college. But when someone hits the ball and you're going up just to hit as hard as you can, an overpass, and you hit someone in the face, to go, sorry, it's okay. Like, what? What are you talking about? You just hit the ball. You smashed in his face. You should be talking shit, first of all. And if you're not talking shit, at least stare at the guy. To give him the sorry, let's not make the game soft. It's so special in itself. What are we doing?
Well, Nikolov,
what are we doing?
Nikolov, like when he stuffs somebody, he gives them that stare. You can't do too much because you'll get called for it, but you definitely know that he's looking at you, that he just stuffed you.
Like, what are you doing?
Glare.
You're hitting the ball at my block? What are you doing? He always looks at you like, what are you, stupid?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of an attitude. It's great.
But I'm talking about, like, it happened twice in the match, not once, but twice, where you hit an overpass or you would go through, guy from UCLA. And again, I'm not judging anybody by any means. I hope you guys are listening to this, but come on, guys, change it up a little bit. Nikolov went up to block, right, with a huge block, and he's well above the net.
Yeah.
Guy from UCLA tees off, hits him right here in the head, and it goes off, right? So you just got to kill. You just hit it off his head or his face because it's his fault for putting it over, and you're going through the net. Hey, man, I'm sorry. I hit you in the head. What? What are you talking about?
You might want to apologize to him because he's going to stuff you pretty soon.
It doesn't matter. I mean, come on. Let's be more aggressive in the game of volleyball. Like, come on, let's get back to the roots of people. Like it's again, kindness. I get it. I'm watching it going, wow, like you just smashed someone in the face. Like I used to get heckled by my own team, let alone the opposing team. Now we got the opposing team like say, hey, I'm sorry. Like guys would be like, dude, what are you doing? Like on my own team, like Sully, when he put his hands down, he's like, well, dig the ball then. It's like, dude, you just dropped your hands. The ball just hit me dead in the face, like as hard as you can. And you were like, well, dig it. Okay. Like that's my own team. And now they're like, hey, sorry, man. Sorry I did that. So that was my only comment. I wanted to bring that up.
You guys will love this. So Jaden, I think she was either she was a senior in high school or like at her JC, and she ripped one down the line and she just pegged this girl in the face. Boom. Right. And I was like, great hit, kid. This is on social media. Great hit, kid. All of a sudden, the social media warriors came in. How can you applaud maiming a kid? And it was just going on. And then the kid that got hit responded and said, hey, nice hit. I'll get that one next time. I'm like, that's what we needed right there. Not this other kind of crap of, gosh, what kind of person says good job on a hit like that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm Gen X, I guess, baby, because that was a sweet.
Wasn't it back in the day? You hit somebody off the chest and it was like called a 6-pack, right?
Yeah, 6-pack with the face, and then the chest was a chester.
The face was a 12-pack, and we had names for that. We tried to do that, right?
Well, and the thing is, listen, it's one thing if you're warming up and you hit someone in of course.
Right,
This is the middle of a match.
Different.
Could you imagine, which we're today, by the way, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Let's turn the game on later today, and let's have Mahomes throw it to Kelsey across the middle, and the safety just light him up, and everyone's cheering, and I want him to go up and say, hey,
Sorry, man.
Sorry, man. Sorry I hit you. Sorry I hit you. Sorry
I knocked you down.
You're supposed to hit him. You're supposed to hit him as hard as you can without hurting him. If I'm in the sport of volleyball and I'm going up to take a swing and a wrap as hard as I can and I crush it down the line and you're there and you're not prepared and it hits you in the face, good. Yeah, I'm excited. My team should be excited. Awesome. I'm not trying to hurt you. I was never trying to hurt anybody. This is in the middle of a match.
Right. It has to, exactly right. The intent wasn't trying to hurt you, but your face got in the way.
Yes, and we're going to celebrate that. We're going to cheer that.
If someone gets injured, you all know, everybody knows. If you saw somebody go down in potential concussion, right? We'd all stop and go, yo.
Of course.
Yo. I mean, you cool? Sure. That's after we celebrated, though. You know what I mean? That's after we celebrated. So, does that make sense? But yeah, the intent isn't to go, hey, where's your face back there? I'm freaking going to hit it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't happen that way. That's
just
crazy.
Things are different in a lot of ways, but
I agree,
the excitement of the game, the crowd, the fans within the school itself, like the student section, like you don't see that in volleyball, at least in men's volleyball when we played. I mean, you guys did a really good job. We did a good job, but it wasn't like a packed house in every arena or places we went to.
Well, even with women's too, Coley. Like when I was at UNI, they, sometimes they had 6,000 people. They, 3,000 to 6,000 was their normal. And then we'd go back west and play at USC, and 400, 500 people. I'm like, you guys don't get it. Like, you're so spoiled here where this is kind of normal. The crowd's kind of normal at that level.
And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but Long Beach doesn't sell out every match.
No, for
that's
sure.
That's why that UCLA rivalry is awesome for the sport and everything. But like, I mean, they'll have half full pyramid a lot of times. And
but what I think
I'll be curious of the UCISC though. I can't wait till you report back, Coley, because I'd love to see that thing back. Is it going to be at the Bren or is it at SC's?
I believe it's at the Bren. I know it's down here at UCI. I doubt they'll be playing in Crawford, which is where we used to play before the Bren. We played in the Bren in the tournament, but we always played at Crawford. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be at the Bren, and it should be a really awesome match. I'm excited to see it. But to go back to what you said, Bear, is it's not full all the time, and I understand that. If we continue to grow volleyball like I think it's going, like I want to go back. Like, I mean, obviously I played it and stuff, but like if I'm a kid and I'm starting to play junior volleyball and I'm 12, I'm 11, I'm 15, I'm 17 in high school and I want to play college volleyball, you're going to start going to matches like that. Not just because it's close, but because it was super fun. It was super exciting.
Great
they
environment.
Were engaged in the crowd. They had the DJ. It was a college atmosphere experience like it's supposed to be. That's why people go to college to play sports, right? It was really that awesome. And so hopefully that they can start to, mimic that. And again, are you going to sell out when you're playing Northridge? Probably not. But why can't you get 75, 80% full?
Here's the thing, too.
And continue to do that.
Here's the thing behind the scenes. We were talking, and he showed me a picture of a men's basketball game in the Pyramid, and it was half full.
I know.
And then, and that's driving the basketball coach nuts or whatever, and it's not a good thing. And, I mean, it's good for volleyball that they sold the place out, and it's packed like the house you were talking about, like with, the DJ and all that stuff. I don't know if they're doing that for basketball. But volleyball is pulling better than the basketball team there right now.
Yeah, and they've done that, but they've done that for a long time. I mean, men's volleyball at Long Beach State has probably been the pinnacle sport at the top for at least 10, 15 years. They've won a bunch of national championships. They're competing in the Final Fours and the national championships, even if they're not winning. Nobody else is doing that. Their baseball teams had some runs and some decent runs into the College World Series, maybe over the last 15 years, but nobody at that school and the Division I level has done anything like men's volleyball. So it's understandable why the fans are there and why they're able to do that. When you win and you have a great product and you're the number one team in the country, people do want to come watch, especially if you're playing UCLA. Now, listen, if Long Beach State was playing their basketball program, a new coach, doing a great job, has got some good guys there, it's tough. It's tough at our state schools. It's tough at Northridge. It's tough at Long Beach. It's tough at Fullerton. A lot of them are commuter schools. There's not a lot to get behind. There's no big football program, big football stadium, big football, even basketball history of all these schools that their kids and their grandfathers took them to. And it's just not like that for sports at the state schools. And that's why they have to manufacture that.
I think Long Beach is,
it was interesting when you had, sorry, Tim. It was interesting when you said DJ was there. They actually showed him on ESPN Plus, and I was like, I turned to my family, like, there's a DJ there. Are you fine? Like, that's awesome. The atmosphere just must have been hopping because, I mean, like you said, you had kids or students in the stands, and they had hot dog suits on, and then they had wigs on, and my junior in high school is going, Dad, look at this crowd. I'm like, yeah, that's what it's all about, baby. So that's what, hopefully you have that college experience. It was just really wonderful to see. Tim, sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. I was just gonna just touch a little bit on that basketball thing too. With I think Long Beach has been to the tournament like 3, maybe 4 times and never really got past the first round. I think they got to the second round 1 time. So
I think that's when we were there.
Yeah,
they got
Back
there
with
last
Lucius
year.
Harris and Brian Russell.
Yep.
So
Northridge beat them that year, by the way. And Northridge just beat them the other night in basketball. Northridge is having one of their best years they've had in probably 25 years in basketball. They hired a new coach 2 years ago. Long Beach State hired a coach this past year. You know, like it is. We could talk sports. You know, I could talk sports forever about everything. And like, it's a tough go in the mid-major for any sport, whether it's, you know, and for sure.
I don't disagree with that.
When you look at the state schools, and like I said, let's use our 2, you know, Cal State Northridge and Long Beach State. I mean, I have a tattoo on my ankle. I bleed red and black. I love Cal State Northridge, but it's a commuter school. There's, you know, the fan base loves the school, but the sports isn't dynamic. They're not pulling in 15,000 people a night for games. When we played, like when we used to play you guys, like we used to stand out. When I say we, the volleyball team, like we used to stand out in the quad with flyers. Like, I mean, I'm a college athlete on a scholarship, standing out with like flyers, handing it to people in the quad to say, come to the match tonight. We're playing the number 1, you know, team in the country, Long Beach State. Like, let's fill the gym. Like we had to go out and promote that stuff, just because men's volleyball in 1990 or 91 in the Valley was big for high school kids, but everyone wasn't flocking to Cal State Northridge to come watch, you know, men's volleyball, even though you guys are number 1 in the country and we were maybe 6 or 7. So it's tough. And I think, you know, again, all these schools, a lot of it's going to depend, Bear and Sully, in the next 3 to 5 years on what happens with the NCAA, the NIL, the money, the revenue sharing, like all of that.
That's it's all got to flush out over the next 4 or 5 years. This is Dave DeTinley, my old college roommate, lefty. Tried out for Long Beach State a couple years now. He's got a couple kids, couple boys going through the college ranks right now. So I thought we bring him on board and just kind of talk East Coast a little bit, kind of talk about stuff that we're not around, Division II, Division III, all that kind of good landscape. Because Coley, very similar with you, he's going through the whole recruiting process stuff. Even though you're done, Dave is going through the middle of it. So I thought it would be a nice little add-on every once in a while to bring Dave in. And he's got his green screen going on. It's not really his live background.
Welcome, Dave. That's all good.
I didn't
have a lot of heads up.
It's all. Welcome to Set the Pipe, Dave. Everyone say hello to Dave. Make sure you hit subscribe. Always hit subscribe and always set the pipe. Welcome, Dave.
Yeah. Thank you.
We just got done talking about UCLA and Long Beach because Coley was there. Coley went to the match and then
$3,000 Coley, or did you get in a little cheaper?
I got in just a little cheaper. I happen to know a few people, so I got a little lucky. Yeah. Thank goodness for that. But we were saying this earlier. The match was just outstanding on so many levels. Yeah. As a volleyball fan, it was great to see the crowd. It was great to see the environment. It was great to see so many young volleyball fans from boys and girls there watching and to see just the elite athleticism level from both teams. Former athlete, former player, kids that are athletes. I marvel in that kind of stuff. You know, watching dudes jump 40 inches and hitting the ball at 12 feet, you know, where I barely hit it over at 8-2 or 8-3, like barely got it over the net. I'd beat you quick before you get your arms up. But I mean, it's just, we said this too the last few times we talked about the women's game, because the women's game is so different than it was when I was growing up. And the men's game is it's crazy. I mean, they're flying everywhere, fastballs everywhere, balls out of the back row are like X's in my generation. They're just right over the one, couple feet off the net. It's sensational to watch.
Now, have you, Dave, have you been to a Division I lately?
So I texted you.
So by the way, Dave's on the East Coast. Dave's in North Carolina right now, and I thought it'd be great to get that perspective because, you know, Division I necessarily, I mean, they don't have the lineup on the California coast of men's volleyball. So curious if you get exposed to that.
Yes. So the answer is yes. Early, and so first off, season is young. So the D3 season is young, just like the D1 season.
Right.
Early in the season. So just so you know, I'm wrapped up with my boys' recruitment as well. I have one playing D3 volleyball right now, and then one that just committed to another D3 school in Chicago called Dominican University.
Oh, Dominican in River Forest.
Absolutely. Beautiful place.
I know. I've been on that campus numerous times. My family lives right there. So that's awesome.
Really?
I've been right there. And where does the other one go? Where's he playing right now?
He plays at Eastern Mennonite. We are not Mennonite, but he got recruited heavily his 17th year. God bless him. The coach there has turned that program around. His name's Omar Hoyos. His son played at George Mason, which leads me into, have I seen D1? Sully, I texted you earlier in the year. My son was at a scrimmage with, they always go to George Mason. And so you had a D3 against a D1. And then the other D3 school was Marymount University out of Washington, D.C. And I was texting Sully, like, I've seen a bunch of D3 level lately, and then I walk in there, and even the George Mason, I'm not dogging out D3 at all, but the George Mason lift, it was so different. And in addition, right after that, one of the coaches from Marymount posted a video saying, so you want to be a D1 pin hitter? Check out these guys. And it was the two pin hitters who will be the starting pin hitters for George Mason. It was a whole other level of difference.
Well, I mean, that's with any sports, right? So, I mean, basketball, Division I, you go see Division III. They're different levels.
They're different. First of all, congratulations to you to have two children, one playing college sports and another one about to play college sports.
Yeah, for sure.
Not easy to do as a parent, not easy to do as a kid. So great for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you said, they're different levels. Playing college sports, I don't care where it is, whether it's junior college, Division III, Division II, NAIA, Division I. It's not easy to do. It's high level no matter what you look at. But, like you said, there are levels of this, like going to Long Beach State and watching Nikolov, who's a 6'9" setter, who's a freshman that probably won't play much. He's probably a little more advanced than maybe your son's school, but again, it's the same thing. I mean, if you're watching Cooper Flagg play at Duke, he's probably a little bit more skilled than the D3 basketball player as well. So it's the same kind of concept, right? That doesn't mean, your son's teams aren't amazing, and they are, right? It's just, different levels. But I'm curious because, I know Cal Lutheran's out here and there's a bunch of schools.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really good. Give our audience here, we've been talking, we've had, Matt Furbringer, who coaches the Love women's team. We've had Jaden, who's a women's professional indoor and beach volleyball player in Grass.
Yeah.
Tell us what D3 is like. Give us the environment so the fans out there and the young athletes that are striving to be college volleyball players know that there is more than just D1.
So so I was watching the highlights of the Long Beach UCLA match because I literally texted Sully like, oh my God, the number 4 team is playing the number 5 team this week. And he's like, yeah, but this is UCLA Long Beach. And so how many people fit in the pyramid? Because by the way, when we were there, the pyramid didn't exist.
Right,
so
right. We just were talking about that. Yeah.
I think it's about 6,000.
Right. Yeah, it's 6,000 or 7,000, whatever it was. There was it was sold out. And, you guys have been up at the top, where there people standing room, standing up there, the sandbar was going off. Like it was as full as you're going to see. The sideline seats where you'd see at the Laker game where Jack would sit, they have those lined up completely full. It was just such a
fourth largest, I think in history. Yeah.
So I would say this, that no matter where you go and what level I've seen play, and I mean, there are levels to D3 as well. Okay. I'm just speaking as, for the last 2.5 years, I've been on nothing but a recruitment trip with my older son, my middle son, and my youngest son. So I've gone into every gym, probably about 50 D3 schools gyms or so. Because when we would go on campus, what's the campus like? What's the gym like? What's the athletic department? And I've seen everything from arenas, for instance, Roanoke College in Roanoke, Virginia. Amazing arena. It's an arena, basically, right? And then I've also seen stuff that, like, I don't know if you remember back to your high school gyms, probably looks a little bit like that as
like
well.
The gold mine.
Quite honestly. Yeah. Anyways, okay, we have all kinds of stories about the gold mine. But so I've seen it all. Now, I will tell you this. I went to a match Wednesday night, Averett University, a little small school that is in Danville, Virginia. My son's team, Eastern Mennonite, was playing there. And we were there with maybe, let's call it, We were 6 EMU fans. The wrestling team rolled in from Averett, and with some students, there was maybe like 35 people there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And no dog out, but they were awesome fans. Oh, and the wrestling team was great. Subsequently, a match yesterday was Eastern Mennonite against a team from, have you guys heard of the National Christian College Athletic Association? That's a whole nother NAIA and stuff like that. Okay. So we were playing against Regent. Well, there was like 100 people in there, and Regent was like the funnest team ever to play. No big guys, no nothing, but they played mad defense, and so many balls came out, and all the students were going crazy with like 125 people in there.
Atmosphere.
Again, no disrespect to anything. Is it the pyramid with 3,000 against 1 versus 3? No. But was like incredibly fun? The players were into it. Absolutely. It is. And the other thing too is these kids are playing hard. Like these kids, listen to me. These athletes, these college athletes are playing just as hard up to their skill level. I mean, really, up to their level. And it's just exciting to see. I mean, it really is fun. So you kind of have to want to see volleyball at all different levels.
Yeah,
out here we see it.
Don't apologize for saying kid. I called Jaden kid, and she's 30. She's 30. Damn. So
is she really? I had no idea. I watched the episode.
She told us she's 30. I was like, yeah, you're still my kid. It's cool. Whatever. It's fine.
If I could point out something though, that like think about this, the coaching pedigree at the D3 level. So let's think about this. It's not all, wasn't Al Skates, but at the same time, right? Or Rattel or, whoever. I know you guys have mentioned a lot of your coaches over the years, but do you guys remember the name Aldous Berzins?
Of course.
Yeah.
Like
passer,
absolutely.
84 Olympics, outside hitter, gold medal.
Yep.
And a Hall of Famer at OSU or at Ohio State. The Ohio State pains me to say that, but like he just retired from Stevenson, which is a D3 school that is just north of Baltimore, for instance, like that big of name. When we visited there, I had to ask the assistants. I was like, do you know who he is? And they were like, I think so. Yeah, kind of, maybe, I think. And I was just like, dude, come on. But then the other thing too, is that I just looked this up, that Springfield College just outside of Boston,
Massachusetts,
is probably, if you look at the history, so D2 championships, or D3, championships have been around since 2012. 2012, if I looked up the history books right. And Springfield touts 11 national championships. So obviously, whatever was before NCAA recognition, they had a bunch. But since 2012, they've won 6 or so. Well, that Coach Sullivan,
Charlie,
is the U19 boys national team.
Yeah, he is.
National team coach, which just won the Norseca Gold as well. So
he's a great guy. Charlie's a great guy. Does a great job out there.
Charlie Sullivan,
and by the way, and that's where, by the way, Springfield, right next to Holyoke, where volleyball was invented. I got to play in a tournament out there when I was in college, and got to go out there and play there at Springfield. And played in the university there. And again, the thing that I think is the most important that I heard you say, and I hope everyone's listening, is it's fun volleyball, it's exciting volleyball, it's high level volleyball. It's high level, and just because you're not playing on the floor with 6'9" Nikolov, who might be the best setter in the world in his age bracket by a landslide. In front of 8,000 people against the number 3 team in the country, UCLA, perennial power since volleyball's been invented, doesn't mean you can't play college volleyball, and doesn't mean you're not good.
No,
right? It doesn't mean
not
that
at all.
And a lot of parents believe like, I got to go D1, and if I'm not playing, if I'm a men's volleyball boy volleyball player, if I don't make it to UCLA, I didn't make it. Like, not the case. And there's so much excitement, there's so much love, there's so much places to play. We talked about this on one of the episodes when Sully was up in Utah. Like, there's so many men's programs that we weren't accessible when we all played. And it wasn't even here 15 years ago, right? To see all of this opportunity for boys to become young men and to play volleyball from D3 to D1, D2 is exciting. And that's great that, you're able to come on here and tell folks that, because this show is for everybody. This show is about telling stories. So feel free to tell some stories a little bit later about the gold mine and some things that went down in the past, because that's what we're here for. But it's really about celebrating volleyball and telling,
exactly.
maybe not telling, because I don't want to tell, but like celebrate and explain and evangelize is probably the what we're trying to do is the sport, and to love it and to get more people to watch it. To be, instead of 100 folks at that gym that you just mentioned, let's get 200. Right? Let's not, we're not asking for 10,000. Let's get 200. 100 was energetic. You said it was loud. It was exciting. Just imagine doubling that just to 200. And the way we do that is by getting, not just set the pipe out there, but more folks enjoying the game, going to watch the game, and being a part of the game. And so having you on here telling folks about, D3 volleyball and what's going on, east of the Mississippi, I think is awesome.
Jaden actually coached at Springfield. I don't know if you guys know that, but that was her 2 or 3 years in college coaching before she went overseas.
Shout out to you guys calling out that Northern Iowa match in the NCAA, because we were riveted to that
amazing match
here, riveted, and it was like almost bittersweet, because obviously Louisville was the home and the hosting and all that stuff, and then Northern Iowa played out of their mind. Anyways, that was my favorite match.
Yeah, and Bobby, the head coach, is committed to come on here.
I have a feeling the NCAA was pushing a button in someone's ear, like, don't let Louisville lose this. Louisville can't lose this. And it's like, I'm fortunate, we all are, as you, like so many folks that had played this sport. I'm on text chains with coaches that are still coaching in college today. And it would just, we're going on, and we're just texting during that match. And it was probably, if not maybe the top 3, like if you were to watch March Madness in basketball, they do one shining moment. There would have been 2 or 3 moments from that match in the cut of that song, because that match was so influential within it. There were so many storylines within it, and just to, again, I said at the to see Northern Iowa lose like that, for a school like that to be in that situation, heartbreaking. But also at the same time, like, that's sports. That's what makes the tournament great. And, hats off to Louisville for being in your own arena and finding a way to win that, and to take yourself all the way to the finals after that. It's crazy.
You'll find I'm just a fan of the game, so I'll go watch all levels. And I know you guys have talked to me, and Sully and I trade a lot of texts around the D3 game and stuff. But we do have several D2 schools within North Carolina that are accessible. The big boys come out here to promote the sport. Right. Long Beach has been out here. Hawaii, great stewards of the game. They invite all the local club teams, the youth out here to come. They get pictures. It's fantastic. So
they just had one in Austin.
That's right.
Austin doesn't have any men's college volleyball around there at all. But for them to go there for exposures for the juniors, brilliant marketing.
Yeah, I think maybe 2026, where we're 2025 right now, maybe 2027. Will your younger son be in college by then?
So he's a class of he goes. Let's see, what do I have? For sure. Yeah, they'll both be there.
Okay, so what we'll do is Set the Pipe will be hosting a tournament out maybe in North Carolina. We'll get
there. You go.
We'll try to get a couple of the schools from out here. Yeah. We know a few coaches. I don't know. We'll see what we can do, and just try to it's a Set the Pipe event. That's where we're going to make all our money, because that's what we're doing this for. I'm just kidding. But
wait, what? Hold on one second.
I quit my job and everything. I'm doing this every night.
Do we need to pause for a
commercial break? Pause in the future.
Break.
That's
by the way, they did that at Averett University. There was like a timeout out of nowhere, and I was looking at the ref, and she's go media timeout.
Media timeout.
Okay, even at this level. All right, love it.
Yeah, I just promoting the game is great, and I can't see why all those colleges, the bigger ones, the UCLAs, the Long Beaches, the Northridges, wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I know all these coaches, and all they want to do is help promote and watch this game grow. They love the game. They love the game of volleyball.
So saying that about the growth, let's chat about this for a sec. So if we were to find an AVCA map, and I just looked it up, Sully, I don't know if we can add that later. I can send you a link to it or what. Yep. But when you look at D3 schools, it's primarily heavily, it's all dotted around the U.S., but for the most part, heavily in the Northeast. So there is umpteen out of the 100 plus or so that you saw. It's got to be, I think, your last couple episodes, Sully, you're giving the metrics.
Yeah.
But the majority of them, 75% of them, is all in the Northeast. So here's the typical couple weeks for me. So I was just telling Sully last night, look, Eastern Mennonite versus Averett University in Danville. That was Wednesday night. I just literally drove back to do this and chat with you guys. And I watched Eastern Mennonite play Lynchburg. So this is really cool. Talk about the growth. We've got at least 2 conferences that have started up in D3 officially recognizing teams. One of them, the Old Dominion Athletic Conference out of Virginia. So they finally got their as many as they needed to actually recognize it. And this year was the start of it. We've got a couple 2-year programs, Lynchburg, as well as Randolph College out of Lynchburg. And next year, a small college called Bridgewater, no offense on the small, that's not what I mean, but a smaller college called Bridgewater is starting, and they'll have 7 or 8 teams in the ODAC. Great Lakes Athletic Conference, just officially recognized. They've got a bunch of teams up there as well. And then you have more established, obviously, conferences that are being added and picked teams are kind of falling into. But it's growing like mad in the Northeast specifically. Because if you go out west, really, what do we have out there? And we've got,
same 16.
Obviously, Lou's there.
Oh, for D3, yeah.
Yeah, D3, sorry. And then Santa Cruz is another big one as well, another big one that's out there. This will be cool. Coley, I sent this to Sully a couple days ago, but I wanted to eventually talk about the differences between D1 and D3. And I did a chat GPT comparing height things, but Cal Lou is getting ready to do an inter-division road trip, and they're going down to play Northridge.
Yep, they are.
And they're going to play Santa Barbara. And I just did a kind of height comparison. There's a couple inch difference on average, but we should talk after those matches, because that would be a telling, because you have the defending national champion, Cal Lutheran, playing 2 D1 schools, and I'd be interested to see what happens.
Yeah,
so.
And you know what? I will send it over to us, or I'll look for sure after this, because I'd like to actually go to that. My sister graduated from Cal Lutheran University. My father at one time coached a little football there during my time of growing up, so I'm a big fan of the Kingsmen. And I would love to see those matches for that reason alone, because first of all, great for Cal Lou, right? I mean, they're right here in the back door. They could play everyone. I mean, they could get to UCLA, USC, Irvine. They could actually play everyone down here in Southern California if those schools have time to play them, right? Because again, strength of schedule and RPI and a lot of that stuff matters as you get going. But I can't wait to see that, because they are one of the best D3 schools. You said they're the defending national champion, and they get to play Northridge and Santa Barbara, who are right now middle of the road right now in the conference, but can beat anybody, right? Got some big, heavy arms and some things that could get done. That's what's so great about this game, is even the teams that aren't as good, when we played, when the teams were bad, you weren't losing. You just weren't going to lose. And again, you said no offense back in the day, we weren't losing to UCSD. You just weren't. It was everyone's going to play that night. You're going to win 3 straight or whatever the case would be. UCSD is legit. They beat everyone now, right? That's not an easy match, right? So
when we were in Bear, you came a year after I had stopped playing and stuff. But solely, I thought Irvine was the one that we would beat up on fairly regularly. And now I'm like, oh my God, guys, don't
number 2 in the country,
Irvine, because they are, my gosh, they're incredible.
And you only go down to UCSD, for the record, if you want to dislocate your ankle. That's the only reason why you would go down there and make everybody throw up outside the gym. And I'm just saying, that's the only time you go to UCSD is to make an impact for the rest of your life.
We went on a unofficial visit with my son for hoops at UCSD, and wow. I mean, boy, is that school grown, and it's pretty unbelievable. They've become D1 and everything now. Their men's volleyball program's just not, it's there. I mean, it's legit. Yeah. I mean, it's legit. And it wasn't when we played. UCI we lost to them once or twice, which, again, out of the 4 years, twice is not that many, but we still lost. They had some great players back in the day, Steve Florentine, and he was good. He was great, by the way.
Yeah.
They had some really good players, but now it's different. I mean, when John Sprott took over, Mark Pressure was an assistant. I mean, they won 3 national championships. They're one of the best teams in the country. But it's great to see the growth of that. And so you talk about the D3 schools, where's Cal Lou in 5 years from now? Now, with financials, this is a whole nother conversation. We've been doing this for a while with NIL and what's happening. Maybe the D3 model might be the best bet for a lot of these teams going forward, with the schools and how they fund themselves and it's still college sports, and you don't need to worry about the huge financial packages, and everyone's not looking for $100,000 each month from NIL, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I just am excited that there's that much volleyball for folks to go out and play, because it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that
No,
5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And so when my wife and I coached high school volleyball, one of my favorite things at the beginning was when we first started was, it's not for everybody, but like, listen, it was like, if you guys want to play college volleyball, these are young girls, we're coaching, 14, 15-year-old girls in high school. There's so much opportunity as long as you don't mind leaving Southern California, right? There's Division II schools, there's Division III schools. Like, there's so much volleyball that you could go and play in. So that was our, one of the things we would tell a lot of folks, like, it doesn't mean you have to go to Stanford or UCLA, but now you can have that same conversation with boys where you couldn't when we grew up. You were either going to Northridge, Long Beach, Stanford, Pepperdine, Hawaii, or that's
JC, or it's JC for 2 years.
Or you're not playing at all. Yeah. Now you have all, like you just said, the Northeast. Like, there's so many kids here in Southern California that leave to go to colleges from, whether it's the SEC, not to play sports, just to go to school, to go to all, like my son's girlfriend's going to Northeastern in Boston. Like, there's so many opportunities. There's so much volleyball that's being played at the youth level. Like, we just had a guest on the other day who was saying, like, how great the Grassroots is right now. Like, it's the best it's ever been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that is so exciting for me and us, is that there is that much opportunity. And I think we just need to make sure, and that's why I'm glad you're on here, is to educate and to let folks know that you're a 6'1", outside hitter that jumps 30 inches. You're averaging 25 kills a match in your high school. You're really good. You're a good student. You love the game. But Stanford and UCLA aren't knocking on your door. There's still a ton of places to go.
A ton.
Being a JC coach, that's one of my main goals, is to, as much as I want my guys there, to move them on and get them someplace. And it doesn't have to be a D1. They can go, if they choose or want to go back east. There's a lot of opportunity, and that's what I'm trying to do with my
Hey, Bear, are you
guys.
Connected back east, or do you see your players, all they want to do is go Division I or stay in California, and they don't want to go anywhere else? Do you follow them after they do their 2 years with you?
Well, I'll keep contact with them or whatever, but basically what I do with my guys, I have them write down a list of, like, maybe the top 5 to 10 schools that they want to go to. And if it's volley or not volley, whatever. And then if I know somebody at the place they want to go to, and if I think it's a good fit, then I help them out with that and contact the coach, or if I know the coach or whatever. And that's kind of how I get them moving on.
So Bear, I'm just offering from what I've learned as a dad and a recruiting, like 2.5 years of going through the recruitment process all throughout the Northeast. Like, I'm happy to talk to anybody. I can pass on some information or introduce, make connections. I can talk to them about some of the programs, the conferences, who they would play, those kinds of things. And I will say this:
it's a big
every
help.
team that I mean that with all sincerity, is that this weekend with these teams, Lynchburg, brand new program, and Regent, and so almost every team that I saw, except for Averett, had a California kid. How about that? And by the way, I watched Dominican, and they got a couple California kids, and one kid was from San Diego, California. I'm like, wait, I grew up in Escondido, so I'm from San Diego, California. Like, wait, I got to talk to that guy. So I'm just saying, they're polling them from all over.
What I'm going to do, Dave, is I'm going to put you on. I mean, I know we talked about maybe having you come on here once in a while, but what I would like to do is I think it's important. The next episode we have you on, we show graphics, we show the names of the conferences, the names of the school, because one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, besides having fun with my friends, is to really get back to the grassroots of volleyball. In my first episode, I talked about what it did for me as just a human being, how it changed my life dramatically, and how fortunate I am that I got to play the game and what it did for me. So I think, like, we're going to start pumping this out to club programs, not just because, we're trying to, again, do this. We want folks in the volleyball world to listen. You don't have to listen to all the time. We're going to have content for everyone. We're going to have content, like we had Jaden on, we had Matt on, we have another superstar, Hall of Fame kind of volleyball player coming on shortly. We had John Hawks, the UCLA coach. We're trying to educate and trying to have fun doing that. So I would love to have you come on. I will make sure that we push this out to the masses in the youth boys programs all over the country, because I don't think everyone knows there's that much opportunity for Division III volleyball. And I don't know even if the coaches on the West Coast in high school know that. And I think they need to, and they need to know it quickly, because that means the game has grown immensely. You just mentioned how many teams are in the Northeast. Like, if I had a son playing volleyball and he had chances to go live in Boston or North Carolina or New York, or, you know, I all over there, from Virginia, to go play volleyball and get an education, like, why wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't you? But again, if you don't know that opportunity's there, you'll just go to maybe a school close by and play on their club team, right? Instead of actually getting a chance to play in NCAA sports. So if you don't mind doing that, I think it'd be great.
Anytime. And I'll get way more knowledgeable from a tactical, like I'll touch a lot more volleyball as we go along, because I leave for Springfield, Ohio to watch another 4 teams play Friday. So I'll at all D3 schools. By the way, let me just preface one thing and say, when I say smaller schools, I literally mean like population-wise, okay? Because I know how big Long Beach is, because I went there and graduated from there, and I know how big UCLA is and stuff. These are schools that are 1,000 population, student body, right?
D3,
or upwards of 2,500 is a very large D3 school. So that's more what I'm talking about from a student population. The other thing I would point out, just as a kind of a broader thing, is that, and I don't, you okay if I shout out some people that really were instrumental?
Absolutely.
And that is, so there's a coach Renee Lopez, and she's a recruiting specialist, and her whole point that when parents are into their, like, she's got a Facebook group that's fantastic. She wrote a book that's easy read and stuff. And we followed it to a T for 2.5 years. If you have no idea where to start, where do you start? She gives you a good process. But her whole point is, make a list. Don't just kind of focus in on D1. Go all the way down to NAIA, like that kind of thing. That's her whole point of it. And you can see, like, kids are regularly posting that their commitments, and there are a whole bunch of schools all over the country for all sports, not just volleyball.
I'll tell you, NAIA. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Hell yes,
NAIA. I coached NAIA for a couple of years, and the level of play is great, because it's the Wild West. There is no rules. I mean, there's no substitution rules. You can basically, you can be 30 years old playing in that thing and played professionally overseas, basically, and you can come back and get your degree. You know, some of these guys that don't go to college right away and go play somewhere professionally or whatever, come back and they will play NAIA, and the level of play is unbelievable.
Did 2 NAIA programs make a jump to that D2 level? Vanguard?
No, Vanguard's still NAIA, I think, but like Concordia, they were in NAIA, I think, and then they went to D1, right? Or they're D2 right now.
They're D2. Concordia's D2 right now.
Yeah, but they were in
just played
NAIA
Long Beach. That was a great match.
Well, they're D2, but they play D1 volleyball.
Cal Baptist used to win the national championship every year, and then they jumped up too. I don't know, is Cal Baptist still in?
I think they cut the program or let go of the program a few years after that all had happened. Like, they were NAIA, they came back, they were great, they played D1, and then they stopped the program. Grand Canyon is another program that's now playing D1 volleyball. And it's, I'm glad, Dave, you gave a shout out. We need more folks, we need more parents to pay more attention to people that are telling the truth and telling good stories or good philosophies on ways to look at the journey. Everyone, parents are so focused, and my kid's going to play at, this one school or this one level, and things change, the portals change things, sports change things. And at the end of the day, I said this a long time ago, Dave, you're our age, you were living with Sully in Long Beach, and like, nobody cares about 1991 and 92. We do. I mean, we do, and we should, right? Like, we tell stories, but like, nobody actually cares. So like, if you play in the national championship like Sully did and Bear did in 91, like, see him at a ski resort now.
You too.
Yeah, me too. I did. I played in the finals. No one asks how many kills you had. Did you start? Were you like the player of the game? Like, you either won or you lost, and you played the natty. So go back to my reason I'm saying that is, all these parents need to look at folks that are trying to help them, and you need to look at everything, because the experience for your child is what should matter, and the overall journey is the destination, is what I said once before, should be what it's about. And if they get a chance to go get an education, if they get a chance to go build friendships that'll last a lifetime and get a chance to play a sport, I mean, you won, right? You won. You won.
And I would say could find their people. Like that's for my kids at times, that's been a struggle, but they've chosen places, all three of them, that they found their people. And so I'm excited for that. It's been a really cool journey. Like I've loved the last 2.5 years. I really have. The recruitment path and trail has been fascinating because it's all new to me. And that's where I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
I love learning that.
The Gen X parents, I think that's the biggest goal because they get, especially the ones that had an opportunity to play or be around the environment, is the fit. Got to try to find a fit, right? And I think that's going to fade over time, unfortunately. I think fit's not going to matter because transfer portal is so much easier. I mean, because back in the day, remember, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. And if you transferred within the conference, there is no penalties now, right? So it'll be interesting over the next, I guess, to see how this all plays out. I mean, Coley brings it up, all the time about, okay, next 3 to 5 years is going to be interesting, or even just this year. Let's see how this all plays out. And he's right. It's kind of the wild, wild west right now and how we're going to rope in. I'm not just talking volleyball. We're talking about the whole collegiate landscape at every level.
For sure. So I did a little bit because I hear you guys. So I've listened to all the podcasts so far.
Thank
all
you.
Your episodes
You're the only one, but thank you. I appreciate it.
I think I was one of the first
on.
3 subscribers,
Wow.
maybe first 5 subscribers, just FYI.
By the way, hit subscribe. Don't forget, hit subscribe.
Yeah. So Sully, every time I hear this, I hear a news or a whisper of something, I'm always texting him like, hey, guess what? I was at this tournament in Florida and I talked to a junior college coach and we started talking about the 2 years not counting. And she was like, oh, that's going to get thrown out. Trust me, it'll be that 1 year and stuff. But I started looking at the whole 18-man roster thing. Right? Because we've got coaches out here that kids are playing beach. It's going to affect them. We've got my kids who are at D3. What's going to be the trickle-down effect? But I did everything that I could find so far. Again, I'll continue to look to verify this, but everything I could find is right now it doesn't apply to the D3 schools. And I will tell you this, in our last, my youngest son had a choice from about 4 or 5 schools. And in talking to those coaches, every one of those coaches was being encouraged to expand their rosters, which was interesting. And I'm talking like 20, above 20, 22, 24, 26, from the purposes of potentially more revenue type of thing. Think about it like that. And then I was like, wait, what happens to this 18 thing? Doesn't affect. But the landslide that's going to come from the good players being pushed through D1 into D2 and potentially down into D3. That'll be interesting to see from our level, my level.
What you're not realizing is it doesn't apply to D2 as well. The interesting part is when you go for a national championship in men's volleyball, it's Division 1 and Division 2 combined.
That's right.
But
So
you're
going to have two different rules. Yeah, you say it's just Division 1, but they have different rules. And Al Knipe told me when we were in Lewis, he's like, yeah, but you got to remember, Lewis is Division 2. I'm like, oh, he goes, different rules. I'm like, oh my gosh. So now that's going to be interesting to watch to see how that all plays out because you're going to have somebody going for the national championship with 2 different rules.
Yeah.
There was one.
It'll be interesting.
Coley, sorry.
No,
just last thing. I woke up one day and saw the headlines and there was a D1 football player who had a couple years of playing D2. And I texted Sully this. He was suing the NCAA to also not count his D2 years. Yeah. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. And I was like,
it's everyone's getting carried away with it, I think. Because again, and the reason is because it's money, and that's what we're talking about. Because if you can play 5, 6, 7 years of college sports at a D1 level where there's revenue sharing, like, again, we're going to talk about our schools. Long Beach State and Cal State Northridge isn't going to be revenue sharing. No one's watching Big West basketball. Let me rephrase that. There's a lot of people watching Big West basketball, but not like they're watching the SEC or the Big Ten. So the Big Ten network, the SEC, there's no Big West network airing all the basketball games, and they're getting tons of revenue. So it's going to be interesting to see how that changes from that level on down. You talk about recruiting, and I just read an article in the Orange County Register. My kid goes to Santa Margarita, and the quarterback there, he's 6'7", he's a star athlete. Doesn't have anywhere to go right now. And
wait, seriously?
Yeah. So he's probably, I shouldn't say doesn't. There's some schools that have offered him a few things, but like Miami of Ohio. If this was 5 years ago, he'd have every Pac-12 conference. He would. I mean, he's 6'7", he can throw the ball. He's a great athlete, played basketball, great guy. I don't know him, you know, he's my student at my son. I know he's a great kid and all of these things. And he's going to play JUCO, which is amazing because JUCO's amazing here in California and all over the country. But that's just another example of what really hit me hard as a parent of kids today in the landscape of college recruiting. This kid started in the best football conference in the country. Mater Dei and St. John Bosco have won the national championship the last 5 or 7 years, if not in a row. So like there's no better football conference. They beat everyone from Texas to Florida. Those top 2 teams do. So he's playing in the best football conference in the country. He started for 2 years. He's 6'7". He's the real deal. He's great. And because of the way the landscape of the portal, the NIL, and so that's not the undersized, am I going to make it kid? This is a kid who will play college football, by the way. He's that good and he will. His journey is going to be, you know, awesome. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. So I look at guys like that, and I wonder how it's going to be in 5 years from now, right? Like, how are kids like that going to be able to survive mentally? What's going to happen with the sports and the scholarships? Schools like you mentioned with D3 and volleyball, like the environment of D3 sports, the family-orientedness of D3 sports, the competitiveness of D3 sports. It might take over for a lot of these sports nationwide. It's doing an unbelievable job for men's volleyball. You know, like you said, all those teams in the Northeast, it's great to see. One of these days, we keep saying we're going to do it. I think one of these episodes in the next week or two, we're going to need to get 1 or 2 folks that could really talk logistics behind the NCAA and really get stats. But I say it all the time, but I don't even know really what to say on what it's going to look like in 2 years.
No idea. Yep. It's crazy because NCAA is losing in the courts right now. So
their fault, though.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
This is their bed.
They're going to get bullied, and it's going to be years. It's not going to be a couple months that they can just whip this together. It'll be,
since we're talking about it, I have to say this because I do. And so,
subscribe to set the pipe?
Well, no, not subscribe, but this is important for me with the NCAA. And if they hear it, then I hope they do. I do have another kid playing. This is your fault. And so, I go back to, Terrell Pryor playing in the Orange Bowl. Unbelievable game. Sells his jersey. Gets banned for the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah.
The next year where he's supposed to win the Heisman. If they would have let him sell his jersey back then, we wouldn't be where we are today. They could have done a better job regulating it. They could have put parameters behind it. The kids always deserve the money, and again, we're all athletes. I'm not saying everyone deserves millions of dollars, but if you're Terrell Pryor playing in the Orange Bowl on January 1st and there's millions of people watching it, you're the one scoring the touchdown. He's the one throwing the passes. Yes, Ohio State's getting the money. They're winning the championships. The guy just wanted some money to buy some food and get some few things with his jersey, with his name on the jersey. Like his name was on there. If they weren't so short-sighted a long time ago with things like that, we wouldn't be here today. So with that being said, I blame the NCAA 100%. It's their bed and they have to lie in it. The problem is we're all lying in it too. And it's just, I'm happy the kids are getting paid, but it's a disaster how this is going out. Schools are losing their programs. Like I said, Sonoma State just cut all of their sports programs. People are losing scholarships as we go down to 18. Walk-ons aren't allowed in high level, at the top level. Folks want more money here. You're playing at one school. You leave that school to go get more money. Like, it's a cluster. And again, I don't know the answers to it, but I just wanted to make sure I preface that because I always argue that. I don't like where it's at right now, but it's their fault.
I take a moment and just take you guys through the latest top 10 poll. I just want to play like Q&A for just
Bear,
a second.
are you going to get us on the D1 too? Do you got that up, buddy?
It's right here.
So first off, big shout out. There's a group of folks who have set up Frog Jump Volleyball, another shout out, but they focus solely on D3 men's volleyball. And they dig into the metrics and everything, but I'm just using their latest poll. So let's just throw this out here. I do know that I'm pretty sure NYU now in the latest ABCA is the number one, but in this poll, have you guys heard of Southern Virginia, for instance?
You know what, Dave? I'm going to probably tell you. D3, no idea.
Throwing this out there. By the way, that's in Virginia.
Which is, this is exactly why.
Southern Virginia's in Virginia? They didn't teach us that at Northridge. I'm telling you.
But it's a smaller school that is known as BY. They would hate me for saying this, but it's an LDS, so Latter-day Saint-based school out of the East.
Yep.
These guys are legit. They have 2 guys on the first team All-American preseason All-American list. They were undefeated going into the NCAA tournament last year, and then got upset in like the round of Elite 8, I think is when they did. But legit. By the way, the beauty is my son, who's at Eastern Mennonite, has played the 10th, the 5th, and in 2 weeks is playing with Southern Virginia, who could potentially be 1 or 2. So we'll have the eyes test for y'all for that. Here's the second one, Stevens. By the way, that's short for Stevens Institute of Technology.
I've heard Stevens. Yep.
Hoboken, Virginia. Win the national championship just 2 years ago. Another legit. By the way, Hoboken, New Jersey, shout out there. That has gone through gentrification and is beautiful. And that campus is right across the river, from Manhattan. Beautiful. NYU, I think we've all heard of, fair to say. Okay. New York University. Cal Lu is that in somewhere in the... Thank you.
Just outside.
Just making sure. Again, I went to Northridge, so we geography,
Who's the coach at NYU right now? Is it Carl Francis? I don't
Let's look that up.
I think he was there for a while. I don't know if he's still there. He's a great guy.
They were
awesome.
I'm pretty sure they were a Final Four last year with Vassar, another school that's in New York City as well. So Cal Lutheran on this list, which was through the end of January, beginning of February. Cal Lu, you guys know. Vassar rounds out kind of the top 5. The next one, which my son has played against, is Juniata.
Oh, yep. Juniata's got a girl, females team that's good. Yep, they're good.
That is the volleyball in their DNA. That I didn't know this. I happened to be speaking with the Lynchburg coach. He's also the assistant coach for the women's team there at University of Lynchburg. But in the ODAC, there's some pretty good women's teams. The one that won their league actually made it to the Elite 8 in the NCAA, but then they got crushed by Juniata women's, and he goes, yeah, Dave, they're on like a 90-game winning streak and won the last 3 championships. By the way, they just won the championship. So Juniata was legit. They EMU played them tough, but they had the look. They were legit, straight up. Then you go into Springfield. Another one here, Wentworth, which is not too far away. They're out of Boston. They were another one that had maybe 1 loss last year. We're going into it and then got upset as the tournament went on. And then you go Carthage. Now, I will tell you this.
Carthage has
2 of the, since 2012, national championships. It is a beautiful campus that sits on the lake just north of Chicago. It is absolutely beautiful. And Coach JW has a fantastic program. I just watched them while I was in one of the matches in Southern Virginia there. That they just beat Dominican. So we had like the 6th against the 18th or whatever, beat them handily. And their preseason All-American was phenomenal, led everybody in kills. I mean, they were legit as well. Hobart, there's one for you. I had no idea until we went into this year.
Yep.
They're somewhere up near Rochester is where they are. But they have one of the former National Players of the Year on their team. And when they played EMU, he led everybody by double digits of kills. Andrew Kim is his name. And so he was a player of the year at Vassar and is transferred up there. And he's phenomenal. The frog jump guys had counted all of his hits or something, and they posted something. He has over 31,000 attempts because he's been playing so long.
Jeez.
How about that? Think your shoulder's tired? Anyways, legit kids. So as you get down there, Carthage, Hobart, Baldwin Wallace, Loris, St. John Fisher, these are the schools that we're talking about that have amazing infrastructures for phenomenal men's volleyball.
I have a question for you, because I think for me, I'd like to learn this. And we're talking about, we're talking about all this opportunity for D3 and youth and youth sports of club volleyball. Where do a lot of these schools that are in the top 10 get their student athletes from? And if they're getting them from the East Coast and the Northeast, how big is youth volleyball in these regions?
It's funny. I hope we can talk about North Carolina at one point, but that'll be for a later episode. But here's where very strong youth volleyball systems are in place. New York, Pennsylvania. Virginia has it, not in every county, but in several of the counties where the most biggest counties, they have a lot. So they're getting them. For instance, if you look at, the other places are like in the Midwest, the Illinois schools and the Wisconsin schools, youth boys systems. So like you get MK Sting is a top program at the Milwaukee area. Phenomenal. That's Wisconsin. They're competing at the open level in 18s and 16s every year. You get down into St. Louis, so the Missouri, they have boys volleyball and extremely strong. So you've got High Performance St. Louis is their big club. Those guys are legit. They just beat our local club teams, who's the defending 16 Open national champion. They just beat us in Chicago in a tough 3-set match. I mean, they handled us really well.
So the volleyball all over the country and the youth is big. It's huge. Yeah.
And so Coley, I didn't answer your question. I was trying to paint the landscape, but
what's important?
The schools in New York, for instance. Actually, let me take Dominican because I've been following them since my son's committed there. There are a couple kids from California, but the majority that Wisconsin, Illinois corridor, right? My youngest son had been recruited at Misericordia, which is in Pennsylvania. They get a lot of upstate New York kids as well as Pennsylvania kids because they have very, very strong boys high school volleyball. So Virginia's got it all over, especially the Newport News, Virginia Beach areas. There's a kid on Ohio State right now that came from Coastal, which is a big club out of Virginia Beach. He's Dan Healy, I think his name is, or so. He started the year as a pin hitter and stuff. So, I mean, they have legit talent all over. That's where the most of them are coming from.
Cool. It's great to see. Love to see how big it is and how much it's grown. And again, like you said, the opportunity to play college sports is far further along than when us four were playing, high school volleyball. And that's great that there's so many opportunities, and more so than I think people realize. And like you said, the level's fun and great. And is it on TV? Is D3 on television? Or streaming?
Well, it is always streaming, which is the beautiful thing. So you can go to any one of the school schedules, and there's a little watch live, pardon me. And that's how we've joined a lot of these. Like we didn't make it to New York to see my son play. That's where we saw Hobart and my son play. We just streamed it. They all are very good about the host team streaming for everybody to join.
Are they streaming with announcers or just streaming?
Yeah, it ain't no Paul Sunderland, Chris Marlowe.
No, but like high schools, some high schools will have kid announcers.
Ours do.
No, they do.
Ours does for basketball.
Yeah. So
they do. It's everything. Yeah, it's mostly student. It feels like student, like media relations, media comms.
kind
of guys. But they do. They do. Some people really know the game and they call out stuff. Others are there to announce.
Maybe that's a topic we should talk about.
We've talked about that in a couple episodes, actually. But again, that's a tough one though, Sully, when you think about it. Like you got D3 volleyball that's just growing. You got the school streaming it, and maybe someone working in their, film department, radio, television, film, social media department, whatever it is, that's trying to call volleyball. Like, I mean, are we angry that they don't know it? Should they know better? At least it's being promoted, right? At least
I would get one of the volleyball girls.
Sure.
I would get the women's volleyball and say, hey, who would love to do color commentating, and just kind of switch them out a little bit to help that. I just think our community is ripe, that it's so ripe to talk about it the way we talk about it, I guess. But no,
one of the middle blockers.
No, for sure not. No.
One of the middle blockers who just graduated from EMU, he was the announcer on a couple of the matches. I haven't heard the rebroadcast, but at least I thought that was good. They were bringing someone who could, who had played the game and knew the game and stuff.
Yeah, I'm like we talk about. It's hard. It's hard to do any kind of announcing, radio or TV. Yeah. It's hard, but if you have a knowledge of the game and if you do your homework, then things can really come around a lot quicker than somebody that's just wants to be on their. Hey, look, I'm on TV or I'm streaming and all the social media stuff and instead of taking it seriously. So. But yeah, we've had a number of discussions on that, and that's never going to stop, I think. Yeah. So yeah, for sure.
So I have to ask, I know Long Beach UCLA was on ESPN Plus, but who does the announcing? Who did the announcing for it?
Prosser did it with Rob Aspero. He's been doing it for a while, but Prosser was good. The team was good at the UCLA Long Beach State.
I went old school there and went Marlowe Sunderland. So I think
for sure you went way back. Hey, no shout out for the Matadors, huh, Coley?
Oh, I know. What am I doing here? I mean, my Cal State
I've been waiting for this the whole podcast.
Huge upside of the Pepperdine Waves is a big win for them.
Oh,
and,
big win.
The Matadors, like I said last time, they're young, they're good. Coach is doing a hell of a job there, Theo, and I'm happy for them. They're just right now, like I said, they're in the middle of the road of where they are, but they're going to get better. And just being able to upset a school like Pepperdine and right now in the beginning of the season, I think Northridge is going to be a team you don't want to play by the end of the year.
Yeah, so Division I was big. So you had UCLA, Long Beach State, Matadors upset Pepperdine, and then Costi out at Stanford. They got revenge on Hawaii. It's been like 12, 13 years.
That was at Hawaii, I think, right?
It was.
Yeah. So
they split though, right? They got one.
They did. They split, but it was the first time they'd won. That first time Stanford had won at Hawaii or against Hawaii in like 12 years. Like well over a decade.
Over a decade. So that was big. It was a big weekend this past weekend for Division I for sure.
Shout out to the Waves too, Coley, because they just gave Long Beach everything they could handle.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
Holy cow!
Well, it's what we said when I first came on here earlier is men's volleyball. And again, we're talking all levels, right? But it's so, the parity's great because there's so much volleyball being played at the youth level. Our grassroots right now is as good as it's ever been. Volleyball everywhere, boys, girls club all over the country, girls beach all over the country. The growth and the level of volleyball is so much further along than obviously when we were playing, but even 5 or 10 years ago. So to see these men's games at such a high level, Pep playing against, Long Beach giving them everything they have, turning around when, Northridge coming in and beating them, right? Like, and then, Stanford going to Hawaii, they had a come back from a few years ago when they cut the program for a little bit. And, Costi's been doing a great job getting them back to wanting to be where Stanford has always been. And then you go over to Hawaii and you beat Hawaii at Hawaii, which is not easy to do.
No.
Back when our generation to this generation, it is not easy to
always
win on
hard.
Yep, always hard. So, shout out to the Cardinal. Shout out to my Matadors, shout out to your 49ers. There's some great volleyball right now at the men's level all over the country, right? Whether you're looking at watching UCLA play Long Beach State or, you're coming out watching your son play on the East Coast. There's volleyball everywhere. It's an exciting time.
Amen.
And Sully said it. Sully said this is, if you're a volleyball fan, go out and watch it. Like if you're living in the East Coast and you're like, I can't, fly to Long Beach State, UCLA, go watch NYU. Pull up their schedule. Go to that match. I mean, go to matches.
By the way, free.
Yeah, great, right?
It's all
great.
It would be, you're there.
So fun to watch, and there'll be such high level, and the athletes are great, and it's go see it live. And when you see it live these days,
you're gonna get hooked.
You're gonna get hooked. You're more mesmerized now than you were when we played. It's just so fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I have to ask you: have you run into Samuelson lately? Do you see that guy? He's in Vegas, right?
No,
I do. I do talk to him. I do talk to him on a decent amount. I don't see him all the time, but I do see him a few times a year for sure.
I ran into him in Detroit like 3 years ago at a youth tournament, and I thought he had sunglasses on. I thought he looked exactly the same.
He does. He doesn't look like he's aged. He takes great care of himself. He can side out. He can still side out, by the way. Don't let anyone kid you.
He looked like 45 when we were 20s. I mean, he was just...
I ran into him in Vegas
as a man
about a year ago.
Did you?
Yeah. We were doing a camp there. And I got my picture with him and everything. And we knew each other a little bit through Coley. I knew him through Coley a little bit. And we played against each other. I think it was in Irvine, for when we were playing A6. And
we need to get Bob. We need to get him on here.
Guy.
Yeah, we need to get him on here. He's a great, first of all, like I've said this about a lot of people, but he's just a great person, right? He's a great human being. I love him to death. But his volleyball story would be amazing to tell.
Oh, yeah.
It would be amazing from JC to Northridge to go on to the whole Olympics runs and all those things.
And what they did at the Olympics for him.
Yeah.
That was a big
deal. Where they all shaved their head and everything.
I'll get on the phone. I'll text him as soon as we're done, and we'll try to get him on here soon.
Hey, so we've been on this podcast for a while, boys, and Dave DeTinley, thanks, man. I think he's a nice add every once in a while to get him on there. I'll reach out to Dave, and we're trying to figure out our schedule with guests and us and all that kind of good stuff. With,
Thank you, Dave.
Bear having a pretty busy schedule with coaching right now, and Coley just starting a new job, and so just relaunching this thing. So I'll talk over with the guys and see if they want you back. Because I told DeTinley on a text, I'm like, if you're not any good, we'll just fire your ass. It's fine.
He did say that.
Yeah, first of all, you were great. And I honestly would love to have you come on in the next couple weeks and literally break down D3 volleyball even more so. Because I think, like I said, we're trying to just evangelize the sport on Set the Pipe. Make sure you set the pipe. But really, and I think just explaining more of it, I'm learning. I didn't even realize.
All three of us are.
No,
I didn't even realize until
great.
Sully said this a few weeks ago that there were that many D3 schools. So, of course, we're doing this on this podcast. I'm going to do more research. I mean, I'd like to go to watch Cal Lou play a few times as well. But the more we can teach and learn and express what's going on out there, the better it is for the sport.
I mean, you think about it. We got men's volleyball going on right now. We got LOVB going on right now. We got PBF going on right now. Then it's going to bleed into still the men's game with the beach going on. And then you got all the junior tournaments just lighting it up right now. It's volleyball 365 for the most part, fellas.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even bring up, I'm looking at the top 100 D ranking, and I can already see in here there's another handful of schools that aren't even listed. And this is from the frog jump one. So perspective, there's at least 100. How's that?
That's which is amazing.
Yeah. That's what we said. Well, we said that everybody from NAIA from all the way down is 300 plus. 300 plus right now, where it was 16 plus. How many in JC, Bear?
16 JC.
Yeah. So what? 32 teams in the country that you can go play for, and over the NCAA umbrella. And now it's everything. It's fantastic. So it's all going to be good. We got plenty of stories with plenty of people that want to come on this thing, which is fantastic. Everybody kind of sees the direction we're going with our interviews is to tell stories, to get their story out there. And this kind of huddle that we do is kind of what happened in the past, what are we going to have in the future, and with Dave, with you coming on every once in a while, then we're going to have that D3 perspective, which is important. So, all good stuff.
Excellent, Dave. Thank you
thanks, man.
for all that information.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Appreciate you, man. Awesome.
All the connections of volleyball that's brought us. Like, Colia, you made that point early on, and I was like, when Sully and I talked a few months ago, well, probably like 6 months ago now, we talked for like 3 hours, and it was all the connections and all the stories of those connections.
It's all intertwined.
So I really like this podcast.
And the next time you come on, we're telling one or two stories about your roommate in college and Bear back at the gold mine kind of stories. Because that's what this was originally predicated on. We're about to set the pipe and tell stories that some people want to hear, some don't. But yes.
Cole's fired. He's fired.
We got the Super Bowl coming up, baby.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we're all gonna.
Great job. Dave, thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Dave.
Dave, awesome.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
That was awesome.
See y'all. Bye.
Cool.